this lockdown, reflect on your shortcomings, reflect on your weaknesses, and make lots of istighfar. Lockdown with CII Radio.
Saturday, 4th of April 2020, day 9 of the lockdown in South Africa. Wherever around the world you are, we're coming to you live from Pretoria, South Africa. This is Ashref Ismail. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Bumper to Bumper on Channel Islam International. Okay, I believe we have Patrick O'Leary online. He's the editor of FleetWatch magazine. He's also the president of the South African Guild of Motoring Journalists and one passionate warrior for trucking and road safety. Not a stranger to Bumper. Patrick, a very good evening to you and welcome to B2B.
Thank you so much, Ashref. Good evening to you and everybody there.
Great stuff. Pat, let's just get straight into it. Which sectors of our transport industry, now we're talking about heavy roads transport, are still operating?
Okay, Ashref, it falls under what was defined in the regulations as essential goods. Now, just in broad terms, it'll be food, fuel, coal, gold, things like gas, oxygen for hospitals, and so everything that is essential there. Things like clothes are not essential at the moment. Medical services are, and of course all the associated backup services in the production of those essential goods. Like that could be like the packaging. One transporter is still hauling packaging rolls or packaging from SAPI. That goes into the packaging of essential goods like medical goods. So it's basically just think in terms of what is essential to you every day, to your existence. That is what's running.
So, Pat, in other words, the goods that they are conveying, which is considered to be essential goods, is what you have just described now. But the service that is being provided, that means the truckers who actually drive those vehicles, transporting those goods, are not declared essential service people.
You mean, sorry, I didn't quite understand that. The drivers that are driving are not declared essential. Sorry, Ashref, I got a bit mixed up there. No, those drivers... Correct,
that's exactly.
Okay, in order to deliver the goods by truck, you have to have a driver. So those drivers that are delivering, and don't forget that with many companies, their whole fleet is not involved in... Some are diversified. So some of those trucks are not involved in essential services. Only those drivers who are driving the essential service goods are permitted to drive it. And there is a system and a verification system of that. One, the company itself has to apply for a certificate through the Department of Trade and Industries and as essential service. Then the company has to give the driver, every single driver, as he's driving on the road, he's caught in a roadblock, he has got a permit as an essential service worker to show to the police. So those are the two. The confusion sometimes in the roadblocks is that they're looking for a disc on the truck driver. There is no disc for the truck under the regulations. Yeah. So it's the certificate as an essential service provider and from the Department of Trade, which you apply for online, and it's working very good. Big haircuts on the first day, but understandably, it's all been very fast. Right. And two, a permit to the driver himself as an essential, call him an essential worker. He's got to drive a truck and get the goods there. Right.
Great stuff. So tell me, how are the truck drivers who are still operating coping with the lockdown? Simple logistical issues such as, fuel stations. Are there fuel stations that are still open to them? Truck stops. What about the food? I've seen on Facebook a lot of them saying we can't even get a decent steak and kidney pie. Where is the place? They're actually talking to one another. Can you tell us where can we get pap and vlees or something like that? Do you know how they're coping with it?
Well, as you know, most of the shops were closed just for food, and they are battling to get on-road food. It is a big flaw there. There's a big battle. A lot of drivers have said that when they get to the shops, they are closed. Now, very interesting is that a lot of towns don't let trucks park in their towns, which has always been a bit silly to me because they deliver all the goods for all the townsfolk. So they can't actually on-road unless they stock up when they leave and carry food with them. They can't go stop in a town. A lot of towns don't welcome truckers, and I'd like those towns during this time to take a rethink on that because the truckers deliver everything to you, so don't be stupid and ban trucks from your town. let them go and shop.
Correct.
But often where they get to maybe the truck stop that there was, and don't forget the volumes are down now. There's no cars on the road. So those shops are closing earlier if they're allowed to stay open. It's selling essential goods, namely food. So the truckers are really battling on getting food, on-road food. Long-haul truckers are battling. And we must find some solution to that. The only solution at the moment is to stock up the cab. The operators can help them on this. Stock up the cab with food for the journey, because they're not going to get it on road where they normally get it.
And of course, today's truck driver has to put up with long hours, poor salaries, unroadworthy and overloaded vehicles, crimes such as burning trucks, looting and hijacking, and the list just goes on, Pat. Are truck drivers getting adequate support from their employers, the association, the RFA, the Road Freight Association and the like, and government itself?
Well, let me go back. Those conditions you're describing for truck drivers have always been like that. The truck driver is the Cinderella of this economy. It has never been recognized by government, by the man in the street, by anyone as being the vital industry that it is. And hopefully after this COVID, and we will get through it, people will take a re-look at the trucking industry, the government for one. And I'm not talking only this current government, I'm talking right back to the Nationalist Party government. They have never recognized trucking as a critical part of the industry. So if the trucking operators themselves are not recognized as being a vital part of the industry, you can imagine how far down the line the truck drivers come in. Now, yes, last year, the year before, the truck attacks happened. It was horrendous for the truck drivers. Many were killed, others were injured. That has stopped now at the moment, please, but hijacking continues. The hijackers are still out there. And that continues, and that has to be done. Something has to be done about that. I think the conditions that you described, driver fatigue, has always been a big problem in the industry. And if one looks at the pressures on the trucking industry to deliver, rail doesn't deliver efficiently and cost-effectively anymore. We are part of the global economy. We've got to have a cost-effective transport system. Rail is not doing it. I think they were too busy rifling the bloody tolls at rail, as you know. I think state capture on all organizations has been the death knell of this country. And I hope that changes after this as well. But anyway, that's a side point. So rail doesn't perform. Road performs. Road is the wheel of this economy. And it's still to this day not recognized. The operators aren't recognized in that. And I think what has happened, we've picked up a very good feeling that government, during this crisis, and don't forget, Ashref, this came out, I think, just over a week ago, on midnight on the Thursday night. And within 24 hours, the guys had 24 hours to apply as an essential service provider to get their certificate. It's been a hell of a rush during this time. There are ports where containers have been sitting, the border posts. Everything suddenly revolves not around rail, but about road. And that is where, during the week, the Road Freight Association, and also, I'm going to pay big compliments to the Road Freight Association. I phoned the CEO, and I said to him, this is the Road Freight Association we're looking for, because up to then, to me, it was a bit of a limp wrist organization. I know I'll get slapped for saying that. But they didn't, in my opinion, represent the transport industry well. They represented the bigger guys, and that was it. They have so admirably come to the party and represented this whole industry, being the force between the government and the actual practicalities on the ground, such as non-essential goods, containers had to sit into the ports. That is now open. The RFA did that. Payment for drivers, I'll spell that out now. RFA was involved in that. The government has been listening to RFA, for the first time. In other words, they've been listening to the industry. And I hope that this leads to the RFA unifying the industry under one body, which is what we want. Whether it's a small operator, big operator, and the small operators really need that representation. So in the past, it's got no recognition, the trucking industry. We've been pushing for it for years. And maybe this crisis might just lift the role and the status of the trucking industry to its deserved position in this country.
Because you don't want to start toying and blocking the highways to get government's attention. Because many people say, if you want anything done, just do that. Learn from the taxi industry. And of course, you'll see very quickly they'll be around the table with you.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But I hear the people, like all these service delivery protests around the country, and many of them have said the only way to get government to listen is to employ that type of tactic and violence and burning and all that. The truck attacks were not anything to do with the industry itself, but was to do with the employment of foreign drivers. Those were the truck attacks, okay? The unfortunate thing is many people have confused those type of truck attacks with that agenda against the service delivery protest. Now, a service delivery protest is going on in, say, Pofado or towns you've never heard of, and a truck comes along. It can't reverse, it can't U-turn, it's caught up. And now, in South Africa, if you don't burn a tire, you're not protesting properly. You've got to have the tires burning. Now, here comes free delivery of tires, You get free delivery of tires coming along, boy, and this is now going to make a Musa fire. And so they either use the truck to block the road, which blocks it very effectively, or otherwise they just burn the truck, and that's happened a lot, So that is just unacceptable, because it's not going to change anything, and it's not the way to get your voice heard or your agenda across. Unfortunately, service delivery protests are directed at governments and provinces who haven't delivered on services. Many who have rifled the till for their own gain, of course, and not for the people. We know about that. And trucks have been easy targets just to enlarge the statement being made by the protesters. But it's not a way to get there's no solution in that. All it does is damage to the economy, to the people in the world. So let's stop the bloody violence, and let's work together as a nation, like we're trying to work together with this COVID-19. That's what we need to do.
Yes.
And this violence and the guys attacking trucks for foreign drivers. I mean, Ashref, the first truck that was attacked was at Moy River 2 years ago in April.
Yes.
I interviewed the truck driver. He was a South African driver. He had a South African passport.
Yes.
And the guys who attacked the truck, he showed them that. And they said, we don't care. We're going to burn you and burn you with the truck. So where's the agenda there?
Mm-hmm.
That's just mischievous, that's criminality. And so that must stop. And we need an effective cop force to get that done, because the truckers have basically been trying to look after themselves, along with a lot of telematics companies with reaction forces and that. And that is not their duty. They are there to deliver the goods of the country, as they are doing now. And they've been having to fight their own wars and try and protect themselves. And, the drivers are so scared of stopping on the side of the road. It's probably a bit of heaven out there at the moment, because there's not many cars on the road. And so the truck drivers basically have the trucks to themselves. But that is not the way to do it.
Absolutely. Pat, we're coming to the end of this round. We're coming up close to Newsstand, so I'm left. This is obviously a discussion that requires far more detailed discussions and conversations and stuff. But let me just ask you, in conclusion, what immediate support would you like to see truckers get during this lockdown?
Man, the companies themselves who are out there, whose drivers they're giving them all the necessary, and it's costing millions of rands. And these, it's not any help from government. They haven't asked for help from government. Government's also got its medical workers to look after. They're giving them the masks, sanitizers, and all that. I was talking to one company today, actually, and they spent close to $1 million on just protecting their drivers, and that is with 60 to 70% of the rest of the fleet off the road. So you can imagine their operations staff, their controllers. I think the big trucking companies and most of the trucking companies are looking after their drivers on the road, their health and that. What I would think we can give a truck drivers is a national shout-out of thank you. That's all they want. They just want to say thank you. Unfortunately, and I don't blame him. In fact, I lift my hat to the president, as we all do in the trucking industry. The president and the minister of health, they've done a fantastic job. I think Cyril's hands have been untied from his past chains through COVID-19.
Yes.
And he's showing true leadership, the leadership that we've been waiting to see from this man for ages. But unfortunately, in his last thing, he just forgot to say thank you to the truck drivers. And that was picked up by the truck drivers. But they're not stopping. They're not stopping. They're saying, it doesn't matter. We'll keep on going. We don't. They've come not to expect thanks. So I think the best thing we can do before you hit the news, I'm probably going on for your news. Wow, I'm going to talk fast, so listen fast. the best thing we can do is say thank you, South African truck drivers. Recognize them for the vital role that they are doing in getting your food there, your medical supplies. Unfortunately, I hope it doesn't come to this, but we have tons of respirators. Those are only going to work if the oxygen gets to the hospital. And the truck drivers are delivering the oxygen to the hospitals. So a big shout out from South Africa to the truck drivers of South Africa, Ashref.
Great stuff. That's Patrick O'Leary. I did tell you, passionate. You can hear it in his voice, and that's how we've always known him. Pat, thank you so much. He's the editor of FleetWatch magazine, the president of SA Guild of Motoring Journalists, and like I said earlier, most passionate warrior for the trucking, and of course a road safety activist, I would also want to say. And there you have it. Yeah, a major shout out for all the truck drivers as well out there who are keeping the wheels turning during this very challenging period.
Lockdown with CII Radio.
You're my brother.
CII Radio. Bringing families together during the lockdown.
Just one big family.